Hi, everyone. I'm Jen, and I want to welcome you back to the Return to Jesus podcast. I am so excited to have you here. If you have not tuned in before, thank you. Welcome. I'm just so glad you arrived in this space, and I'm very excited for my guest today because she is just a fun, wonderful, creative, loving, exuberant, talented individual. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, my friend Amy Betters-Midtvedt. Did I pronounce that right?
You did. You did. High five you, because it's really a hard one to get right. Yeah,
Okay.
well done.
Do you know what's funny? I actually realized before we did this, you and I were just chatting, and I
Yeah,
wanted to double check that because I say it
yeah,
that way in my mind, but I've never actually said, Amy, is this how
yeah.
you say your name?
Yes,
And
it
I'm
is.
so
And you nailed it. It's like 5% of the population only
wow.
can get that
Woo,
on just
I'm
overall
gonna
off
just
the
I'm
top.
gonna give
So
myself a
well.
little pat on the back then.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, friends, for
It
those
is.
of you who have not tuned in before, I'll just give you a little rundown on how this podcast works. So, the first half of the questions for Amy are going to be more faith specific, talking about her personal rhythms and habits and the ways that she meets with the Lord throughout the day. I'll just be encouraged by those things that she has to share with us. And then the second half, we're going to talk about her fantastic book, You'll Make It and They Will Too, Everything No One Talks About When You're Parenting Teens. And oh my goodness, it is so good. So, Amy, my friend, the author, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So, raising teens today is not for the faint of heart, and Amy Betters-Midtvedt has certainly been through it. She's come home to a teenage daughter with a surprise tattoo attained from a guy outside Walmart. She's held tight to another one of her teens suffering with an eating disorder, finding her way through to help and heal. She's laid outside her son's room at night as he struggled with anxiety, so riddled with worry, all she could do was pray. The stories are endless, but for Amy, so is the beauty, the grace, and the opportunity to love and raise our evolving humans with the same devotion, patience, and persistence God extends to us. So beautiful. As a mom with 5 kids, ages 12 to 22, currently living all at home, Amy Betters-Midtvedt found that parenting teens challenged everything she thought it meant to be a good mom. But in the unraveling came the building of something new and more beautiful than she could have imagined, an incredible sense of love, hope, joy, and relationship, even in the mess. Yay! Amy, welcome.
You so much. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to you. It's
Oh,
just going to be so much
it
fun.
is going to be so much fun. I always have fun when I talk to you. And just even reading that, I mean, that's just one of the beautiful things about you. You find the beauty in the mess and you're so authentic. Your voice is so real. And I know as somebody who I have 4 kids, one tween, my son's 12, but the rest 3 teen girls. And we're in the thick of it.
Yes, it's a lot. It's just a lot.
It is. It's like, but it is like you said. It's just there's so much good, but there's also there's some hard. There's some hard, and we'll get into all of that later. But so my first question for you, Amy, is when you hear the words "return to Jesus," what do those words stir up in you? And for you personally, what would that return look like?
Mm. I love that question. And I love just those words because I think for me, at first, when I thought about that, I thought that feels like it has to be this big thing. Like, do I have this big moment where I like left and came back? And for me personally, I was the kid, the youth group kid. I was the, is there a retreat this weekend? Sign me up, like all of it, right? And so even, through college, that was still my MO. Like bringing my kids to church was a joy. I couldn't wait to bring these little kids, and we're Catholic, like getting their first communion, just all those parts. So my faith and Jesus has just been like walking alongside me for so long. And I realized really for me in particular in this season, my return to Jesus it's a practice.
Mhm.
It's a continual practice that as the world swirls around and draws us in so many directions, it's become harder and harder to stay that youth group girl, that
Yeah.
girl that, that was that was young me and relatively unburdened by things outside of, my own wants and needs. And so when you enter these seasons, when you are surrounded by others and you are serving a lot more people, it can be so easy to, even though you're serving on his behalf, it can be easy to lose that thread.
Oh, yeah.
It can be so easy to lose that piece. And so it is like, how do I practice that continual return to Jesus? How do I practice that when things are really hard and having a hard time seeing his work anywhere?
Yeah.
Right. And so that, to me, it is become much more, I haven't had that big leaving and coming back, but I'm having pretty deep, continual coming backs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a mindfulness that you're talking about. Like just that awareness, the small, seemingly insignificant, but incredibly significant ways that we
Amen.
turn back to him every single day.
Amen.
And I love that
Amen.
because I do think sometimes we think it has to be something grandiose or big, but that's the whole thing. It's just these ways, practices. Like I love that you said practices. What practices do we incorporate just to see the miracle, to see the wonder, to be awe-inspired?
Absolutely.
Because there's so much that is awe-inspiring, but we get so lost, or at least I do. And it sounds like from what you're saying, even serving the people that you're serving, we can get so just distracted by the grind that it's hard to always see. So I love that. That was absolutely beautiful. So do you have certain things that you will do to help you to return to him throughout the day? Like, let's say you're in this really busy, kind of stressful, chaotic season. Is there any like little prayers or anything that you can think of off the top of your head that just kind of helps you to recenter in the chaos?
Absolutely. Yes. The older I've come, the more I have realized my need for ritual throughout my day, like those little touch, and throughout my week, throughout my month, all of it, it just at that little level, what are the practices I'm going to do that are going to make the space? So number one for me, and this is like a shock. I used to be the person who no one could get up in the morning. I am up at 4:47 every morning and I feed my cats and then I go to my yoga mat and I am able to be in the quiet there. And so for me, yoga is not just the meditative practice and it's not just the body practice, but for me, it's a prayerful practice where my space is cleared and I'm able in so many moments just to invite God in, to ask him to open my heart, to ask him to, like we set an intention. I ask him to help me set that intention, offering those times up when I'm so tired, offering that up for the good of the world, for the sense of the world, as we used to say when I was a younger, very Catholic family. So that moment and starting my day with that practice and then a little bit of Bible reading afterwards has been just key. Sometimes journaling at that point as well is really helpful for me to get some of those thoughts out, or those things that God has given me on my mat, or those moments that I've gone through. So I've had it just makes it such an important part of my day. Then I also have a little prayer journal that I do carry around in my purse. And this was one I got from Mr. Rogers. It was like reading about Mr. Rogers, something he did. So when there is somebody that needs a prayer, we just say, oh, I'll pray for you. But to actually write that prayer down in that journal. So that's another place that I can go when I'm feeling like it's just all off the rails. I put my prayers in there too. Prayers for my kids, prayers for my people. And then it's prayers for just any other thing that people have given me. And I can go through those prayers and just read them and kind of meditate on sending God's love to each and every person in that.
That's so beautiful.
Those are two structured ways. Those are really my two biggest structured ways. Other than that, I will tell you right now, parenting teens just makes you pray all the time. It's just like right? Like, so it's honestly, like, we just had a whole other, like another thing, just when things are going along. My mom was like, everybody seems to be doing so good. I'm like, don't even say it. Don't even say it. Like 20 years later, you're like, oh gosh, I did not see this thing coming. Why did you say it? Here it all's coming down. So when that happens, my go-to prayer is just trying to put God like in their path, like God, be on the other side of the door with that child. God, please. I know you're already there in the solution. I know you already can see what's going to happen. You're already there. You're on the other side. We just have to get there. Right. Oh, and you're here too. Okay. So just reminding myself of that and reminding, oftentimes my kids of that too. So that prayerfulness in those really hard moments, parenting has really honed that for me as a necessary practice to actually make it through.
I love that image of God sitting with you on one side of the door and God sitting with your teen on the other side of the door. That is a
Amazing.
powerful image to think of you as a mother praying and him holding you and also holding your child. That's so
Yes.
beautiful, Amy. So beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
those,
that's my fallback.
what a great fallback. I mean,
Not bad.
and you're
It's not too shabby.
not too shabby.
Not
Not
not it's not
too
too shabby.
shabby. I tell you what. So I had the joy of actually hanging out with Amy face to face, person to person, just over a year ago, I guess it was. Like, wasn't
Oh,
it
it was
last
such a
November?
great time.
I loved
Yeah, it was
it, but we had some
so good.
bonding moments. Some were our cats, like the fact that we both love cats.
Yes.
And
Our
and
cat.
so for you to mention your cat in the morning, you're feeding the cat and the
Yes.
yoga. I remember you doing yoga, like us sitting in this beautiful, wonderful like circle and talking with our coffees and
Yeah.
you with the yoga and I loved it. Like it just I love it.
Yes.
Like those practices that you gave are so tangible, so
Yes.
encouraging. I am encouraged by your words. Like I seriously am so
Oh,
encouraged by your practices.
'cause it can be anything. It's folding in it's like finding God where you meet us wherever we are.
Mhm.
If you do not like yoga, you're a runner, run. He'll meet
Yeah.
you there. Like, whatever it is, if you just like to walk in the morning, if you just like to sit with your coffee and stare at a fire, whatever it is, but to give yourself that gift of that time
Mhm.
where you can be quiet and invite him in, I think that is that key, right? Find
Yeah.
that. It's accessible to all people,
Yeah, and the
whatever it
fact
is
that
you love.
you've found this time that works so beautifully
Yeah.
for you, it's just so,
Yeah.
so encouraging. And to hear you say that about the teens and the prayer journal, actually it's crazy you say because we had an incident, we'll just say an incident, something
Incident.
we have not ever faced before as
Mhm.
parents. It happened last week around Thanksgiving time and my response has been I've started a prayer journal. So every morning I'm journaling my prayers, and there has been something like a connection with the Lord, just a deeper connection than I've had for a while. And I've realized, just like you said, there's something about like the act of maybe it's because we're both writers. I don't know. But there's something
I
about the
know.
act of like actually taking a pen to
Yes.
paper and writing it
Yes.
down. I don't
Yes,
know. It's just,
there's science there. I know there is. There's science there. Like the gratitude journal, you become, it
yeah.
writing down what you're grateful for. I think it's the same thing with your prayers. It really, you are 100% correct. There is something different about making it tangible.
Yeah, it's just, oh, it's so good. Well, thank you, Amy. So, just one more question because this season of the podcast, we're really honing in on grace because it's something we just all really need and want. And so, I'm just curious when you hear the word grace, what does grace mean to you?
Right now, especially, I've got all these kids living home. So our two oldest college kids, just to kind of give you the lay of the land here, decided to commute this year. So they're both here commuting. My son, who graduated last year, took a gap year and he just decided to start school this fall, but he's at the local college, so he's here. And then my 17-year-old and my 13-year-old. And so grace is the theme. Grace is the practice right now, right? It just absolutely has to be with 7 people under this roof, right? And all the other beautiful people they're bringing into the space with them, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
But people are coming and going and doing and not doing, and it's a whole thing. And so this idea of grace, of making space for each other where we can live and we can offer up this grace to each other that that's okay,
Yeah.
right? We're not expecting anybody to be perfect. We're offering a lot of space, and sometimes it's forgiveness. Sometimes it's understanding. I think those things fall under that grace umbrella, right? Those are part of that practice. And to sort of live with this idea that we believe each of us is good.
Mm-hmm.
We are created good. We are doing the best that we can.
Amen,
And if
sister.
we believe that of each other, the grace flows a lot more easily and it flows back because it's no longer like this thing where I'm parenting them all the time necessarily in that same way. I'm living alongside them. I need them to offer me grace
Yeah.
so often. Right. And my husband as well. And so there's so many times I find myself saying, we're going to need to give each other a lot of grace this weekend, guys, because we've got a lot going on and we're going to live in a grace. grace-filled women. Right? Because otherwise it's going to be a lot of conflict. So to me right now, it's living out that grace and helping them at the same time understand how much grace they're getting, not only from each other, but from God all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's grace upon grace upon grace upon grace that is being heaped on top of us. And that also makes it easier to give grace to your sibling who took the car you thought you were going to drive. You didn't ask anybody, even if you could have the car, right?
So much happens in the head that doesn't come out. And then it's like, wait, how was anybody ever supposed to know that this was the plan? Right. Nobody knew the plan. You never spoke the plan.
No. So we just need to be like, all right, I'm going to have grace for you that you didn't mention it. You have grace for them that they took the car. And somehow we're all going to end up being okay.
Yeah. Well, I love how you said it's flowing, because it is a flowing entity, and to embrace that, like you said, it's between you, and it's also with God.
It has to flow all the way.
Yeah, it's from the Lord, and then it goes out, and it's.
Yeah. And if you don't let yourself receive it, sometimes as a parent, I have a hard time letting myself receive grace because I will feel like I should have done that better.
Yeah.
I should have done better. I just wrote a whole book about parenting teens. I should be doing that, right? That's not what the book is about, first of all. And second of all, that's not what this is meant to be for me either, right? Yeah. So, but if I'm not receiving grace, I'm blocking that grace and not letting myself receive it, it's harder to give it, right? It has to flow out. It has to flow up and out like that. You cannot bottleneck that piece of it. So that's a practice for us as parents as well. That's harder than it sounds.
It's so hard. And like you said, and for your kids to know that you need to receive grace too. You sometimes need to ask for forgiveness too, that it's not just them, that it's also you, but it is so hard. The fact that you say that. So after we had, again, we'll call it the incident last week.
All parents of teens know.
Oh yeah.
The incident. It's like something
incident.
Whatever. All right. Yeah. So we get it.
Yeah. But as soon as our daughter left, I said to Pat, it was just the guilt thing. I was like, I don't think we handled that as well as we could have. I don't think we didn't do that right. Like, it was just all that, like, what if, and what should we done, and what was the right answer? And that's the thing, is that there is no quote unquote right answer anymore. And I don't know if there ever was, but it felt like maybe there was more of a right answer when it came to like, does your kid need a nap? Yeah, if they'll take one, they do. They should. Yeah. You know,
so clear to me now. So clear to me now.
Yeah,
exactly.
But it's just, I mean, in that stage, it was its own unique card, definitely too. But gosh, it is really hard to receive that grace and not second guess all the things.
All the things. All the things, but we're just human people.
Yeah,
that's it. We're just human people. We're doing the best we can.
What is the weirdest thing about becoming a parent? Like, I feel like you think that parents know so much, especially when you're little. You're like, oh, they understand what it is, and then you become a parent, and you're like, whoa, none of us actually have a clue. We are all winging it.
The whole world, and then like my mom and dad. They were winging it. Oh my gosh, they're still winging it?
Yeah.
What the heck? It's a whole thing. And then when your kids start to realize you're winging it, like I feel like my 23-year-old she's getting it now. Like, that woman.
She's catching it on.
She's found me out. For 100%, she's found me out. Like, based on what you've been saying lately. Pretty sure.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh, I love it. Excited to share with you that I have written a book titled Return to Jesus, an invitation to abide with him in every beautiful, stressful, or tedious moment. It is a dream come true, and I could not be more thrilled to share with you that this book is available online at stores such as Target, Walmart, Amazon, Christian Books, and more. The book will be available on April 15th, 2025 to purchase in-store as well. And I just really appreciate your support. It means the world to me. I could not do this without you. And I'm just so very grateful. So be sure to grab your copy today. Again, it's Return to Jesus, an invitation to abide with him in every beautiful, stressful, or tedious moment. Well, Amy, I want to get into your book here because we
Oh,
only have
great.
so much time, and
Yeah.
this is just, I'm telling you, for anybody listening, if you have not read this book is full of nuggets, wisdom, grace, understanding. You touch on so many topics that we really need to be talking about in this stage of parenting that can be just really isolating at times. Like, it just seriously, reading your book felt like a hug. It felt like a
Oh,
blanket. It just really was needed. It is needed so much. So, what inspired you, Amy, to write this fantastic book right here?
I really think so much of what you just said. Like that phase of parenting, this phase of parenting that I'm currently in, I guess when I say that, it's like the beginning. I'm thinking the beginning of it. I'm still deep in it. Will be for a while, as will you, right? 4
Oh,
kids.
yeah.
It really was that unexpected isolation
Mm.
and looking around and feeling like everybody else had it all figured out, right? Like from what I could see on socials, everyone was killing it.
Yeah.
Everybody's kid is on prom court and is playing football and is all A's and is all the things. And that was not my lived experience.
Social
Was
media. Yeah.
right. So I'm like, what's happening here? And then all of a sudden, like the conversations I used to have with people, with friends, or with like people at bus drop off or whatever it was, some of that first of all dries up because you're not in those spheres with people anymore. And then even when you are, everyone's real careful about what they're saying, right? Of course, because our teen stories are no longer our stories to tell. And so we're all just kind of like glossing it up and making small talk. And, back in the day, I could like tell you guys, like, here's what the poop looked like in the diaper. And,
Yeah.
right? Like, we were like, nitty gritty. And people are like, send me a picture of that. And we're all going to study it and we're going to figure
Pictures.
it out.
I remember taking pictures and sending them to people.
Everyone's like invested in it, right? We could just discuss this. Our children's is what we were discussing.
Oh, it's
So it's
hilarious.
felt like nothing was off limits. And now suddenly everything's off limits. And I just remember like sitting outside of a bedroom door of one of my kids, which is one of my go-tos, is to sit outside the bedroom door um, and pray. That's one of my go-tos.
Oh.
And all I wanted was somebody to tell me they had done this same thing and that it was okay on the other side. I just needed to hear that. And I felt like there was nowhere I could go at that moment in time in the middle of the night. And I just thought, I wish I could pull a book off my shelf right now and just read that somebody sat outside their door and their kid was fine. And then I thought, oh, that's the book. I actually had a different book started.
Book. You literally made that book, Amy. That's incredible.
People say, write the book you wish you could read. I had a different book started and I pivoted to this book and also like running it by some of my trusted advisors. People were like, that's it, Amy, that's the book. Please write that book. Like I'd read that book, right? That's the book you need. And so I pivoted into this and then it pretty much wrote itself. And finally by the end, I'm like, kids, stop giving me material. Books, all because as I'm writing it, I remember sitting down here writing it, and then an incident actually didn't make sense. It's in the outtakes, but an incident went down, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I feel like that's you just made another chapter. Because parenting teens is so ongoing and each kid is so different and unexpected. So that's really what I wanted the book to do for people is for people to be able to take this book and you don't even have to read it cover to cover. I actually just had someone, she's like, I just needed to message you. I just picked this up off of the shelf at the library. And she's like, full disclosure, I turned right to this one chapter that I didn't read it cover to cover. I started with this chapter because I looked at this table of contents. I was like, I need this now. She's like, and that's what I needed. That's what I wanted it to be so that you can have this on your shelf for years. You've got tweens, start here. You can peek at what's to come. If you don't want to know yet, don't know yet. But then when your kid comes home with a tattoo from the Walmart parking lot, I have got you covered. You can just go right in. You can read what happened. I'm set. I'm setting you up. I've got something for you at every stage.
That is one of the things that I do absolutely love about your book because you can go to it in those hard times and be like,
Yes.
I need this. I need this right now. You've got the tricky tween and teen years. I'm not parenting myself, teens and friendships, cell phones and social media, house rules and chores. I mean, you cover teenagers in fashion. I was like, yes, thank you. I'm not alone with this. Like, I felt like everything I read, mental health, like you touch on such a wide array of topics. And yeah, that is a gift of this book, 100%, that you can just pick it up and go to those spaces.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, because we're talking about grace, and I'm just loving this conversation so much. Let's talk about grace and the tween young adult years. We kind of talked about this a little bit before, but how have you seen grace play out in your relationships with your teens and your young adults? Like what role does it have, I guess, as they've gotten older? I mean, we always need grace at any age, but like, how is it different than the younger years, I guess, is what I'm wondering
I
too.
think it is a little bit different. I feel like right now, I have my 13-year-old boy. And so that 12 to 13 is a big deal. Like the 13 switch is real. It's real.
Oh,
I know.
my son's 12. He'll be 13 in June. This is what.
Just hold on.
Wait,
Hold on. It'll be okay though. It will be
what?
absolutely okay. I promise.
What is it? Wait, we're totally veering. But
Boys just do this thing. I don't even know. It's like they all of a sudden they're like cool. Right? Like they're just like sort of cool and they think they're funny. I work in a middle school and in a high school too. So I am surrounded by this and it is entirely normal. 7th grade's a little wonky. 8th grade, that's what my son is now, is off the rails. And then they come back around.
Oh, they do?
All right. They're still teenagers, but they lose this weird thing that this initial puberty, I swear, does to them. It's this thing. And with the earlier kids, like the girls at first kind of broke my heart in one way. And then also like there was like kind of a lot of sass. So I didn't give a lot of grace for that. I will be dead honest. For my first kid, the first pancake and the subsequent pancakes didn't get quite as much grace as this kid is getting. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is like,
that makes sense.
I understand what's happening to your body and to your brain. I get it. He's getting grace from the whole family because my daughter texted me the other day. She was inside with him and I was outside in the patio. And she texted me like, oh my gosh, were we all like this? Like, I am so sorry to say, yes, you were. And then she texts back, I am so sorry. That must have been really tough for you.
That's the flow of grace right there. That's the flow of grace. Everybody's giving him grace, and now she's seeing how you gave her grace, and it's just
exactly
everywhere.
Right there. It's just flowing. And then she was like, she chilled out with him, right? Because she was like, well, this is what it is. She understood how that flowed. That's a perfect way to say it. And so that's that beauty of understanding that the need for the grace and where it's coming from. There's a root there, right?
Yeah.
Like his body and mind are just doing crazy things. He's going to act a little crazy. It's fine. We love him so much. He still loves us so much, and it's all going to be okay. So that's it to me. Like sometimes right now, that's almost like this cheerful grace we're all giving, and it's all like we're kind of. And then for the bigger kids, it becomes a little bit more of a serious grace.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this grace around big life decisions, letting them, sometimes it's, goodness gracious, child, I told you that was going to happen. And it did. And now you're sad. Right. And you're just like, grace for the fact that they're living their own lives. And that's not my role here. My role isn't to be like, I was right, you were wrong, you should have listened, blah, blah. My role is to just offer you the grace to be a human person and learn your own lessons. Mm-hmm. And that's going to flow kind of this, that just kind of flows this way. And they're going to give me a lot of grace when I stick my nose in where I shouldn't. When I start a sentence with, I really know this isn't advice you're asking for right now. But
I just can't help myself.
I just can't help myself. Like, I'm going to say it anyway, and you can ignore me. That's like something I say. And they give me grace because they know as a mom, and I've said this to them before, I am telling you this because I need to tell you as your mom, but also I want you to do what your heart inside of you is telling you to do. Like, don't listen to my voice, listen to God's voice all the time. So check in with that voice, but I'm going to say this thing anyway. And they will look at me like, okay, mom. Right. And like, and they will just still be their mom. Right.
Yeah. That's great that you have that dialogue where you can just be like, hey, I'm about to say this. And you say what you need to say. And I love that because you can't not as a mom. I mean, that's one of my hardest things as they are growing older. It's like, I probably shouldn't say this. They're not asking for but you can see the train coming. Like, and it's and
Absolutely.
their car is parked on the track, and it's like,
That's the perfect
get
analogy.
off
Yes.
the track. What are you
Yes.
doing? And
Yeah.
it's like, how do you, okay, so how do you know when to say what you need to say and when to not? That's one of the things I'm struggling with right now because I don't want to push away.
Yes.
I don't want to push away, but I also, and I know there's grace like we're talking about. Like, I know I had to fall down sometimes. Some of my biggest learning experiences were the times when I
Mm,
fell the hardest. And so it's like, I
yeah.
know we can't keep them from falling, but goodness gracious, when you see that car parked on the track, it's just like,
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing, and I do think, one of the keys is to watch for that, and I talk about this in the book, like, that door to be open, and you can see it in their eyes and their demeanor and their posture. Sometimes it's just a crack. I try not to say anything if they're just like, the door is shut,
yeah.
because it's a waste of my breath, and it's like it, like, takes one of my chances to communicate with them sort of, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have limited amounts of
Yeah.
chances that they're gonna hear us, and so speaking when it's really just important makes those moments when they're on the tracks, they are more likely to hear you. If we're speaking all the time
Mm.
into all the little things that or they don't need our voices for right now, then the big ones get muddled. So really discerning when is it that big thing and when it's not, and then approaching with this depends on the age. All right. The older they are, the more you can do the thing where it is. And I said this to my daughter the other day, really, like, I am going to give you this advice as a vantage point of a 50-year-old woman who has been married for many years and has seen a lot of friends and relationships and things happen. And I fully expect that you're going to ignore 90% of what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say this. Are you open to me saying this to you? Yes, I am.
Mm.
Said my piece because it was a big deal. What was the train that was coming felt like a big deal to
Yeah.
me. And I don't think she even saw it as a big deal, right? But sometimes we see the trains as big trains. They see them as these little toy trains. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's a
No,
huge train.
this is no Thomas.
And
This is a
this is
locomotive.
no Thomas. No, we are not. We are like full speed ahead. This is going to be a thing. And I was able to say what I needed to say. And initially I could just see her kind of like, and what happened was over the period of a couple of hours, she came back around to me and said, you know what? You're right. You're right.
Mm.
I didn't think of any of those things. And so I also that God's in there. I'm going to say that right
Yeah.
now. Somewhere he was in there stirring that her heart up. Because part of what I always do tell them is like their voice inside is given to them by God. My voice sometimes will speak fear into your heart, where
Mm.
God will speak boldness and you should be going forth and doing something. And that's just the beauty of God. I believe he partnered in that. She came back around and like the whole thing dissolved and it was just done.
That's
But I do
amazing.
not give this child advice like that often unless she asks. I really don't. Now with a kid who's more in high school, that's younger, sometimes it's our job just to put like if there's actually boundaries up to keep that train from hitting you as
Oh,
best
yeah.
as possible, you know?
So it
So we can't always
differs.
talk about it. It differs per kid, and every kid is different at every age. That's the beauty and just like the worst thing also about parenting is like any trick you learn with your first, just like toss that out the window. Like you know more about giving grace, you know about more about having patience, you know about more about regulating yourself, right? You know all those things. But you do know a darn thing about how to parent that second kid? Really? Them personally? No.
No.
Because it has to be personal to that particular kid. So I do think the important part though is like speaking when it's mostly necessary and then speaking to their heart as much as you
That's
can.
so great. I'm just gonna tuck that little nugget of wisdom away right here because I needed that. I mean, I
Good.
really did need that because
Good.
I don't want it
Good.
just to become noise. I don't want my words just to be chatter. Oh, there's mom again, or whatever, nagging or whatever it is. I don't
Yeah.
want that. So
No.
save the words. And
Save the words when we have so many good
we have
words.
so many good words.
We have so many good words.
Why don't
Who
they
would want
see
to listen
it?
to them? Come
Why
on.
don't they see it? I know.
All this at your
Uh,
fingertips, kids.
okay, Amy. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do just want to touch on a couple more quick little things. So one of the
Oh,
things we
absolutely.
talked about how it's why it's hard for us to give ourselves grace. That can be so hard, but it's also very important, right? So, why do you think it is so hard? And what helps you to accept that grace for yourself? Like
Yeah.
what makes you more open to receiving that grace?
Yes. I think it's so hard because we somehow have this idea. Like you said earlier, we should know all the things. We should have this figured out. We should consistently know the right thing to do when faced with absolute situations we never saw coming, but somehow at the drop of a hat, we should all know what to do, right? And it's this expectation that not only are we doing that, that like somehow we are also like managing a home and paying our bills and figuring out these EOBs from insurance and helping kids figure out how to pay tuition and managing cars. And I mean, it's all of it, right? And somehow our house is also perfectly clean and decorated. Our kids are impeccably dressed and we are feeding them the most perfect nutritious meals. It's like all the things we're supposed to be doing perfectly. And that message has been coming at us for so long and so hard and so consistently that when we're not living up to that, it is hard to give ourselves grace because we feel like we're supposed to be living up to all the best of every single human on the planet all the time. And so the first thing I needed to do was break out of that dumb madness and realize it was all just a giant lie, right? Like it's just a huge giant lie that I'm living in the middle.
It is a
Giant lie.
It's a giant lie.
Giant lie. It's like a Truman Show going on around us,
Yes,
right? It's like all fake.
yes.
It's all fake. So we have to remind ourselves and do whatever we can to protect our peace to know that it's all fake. And to know that like all we're meant to do as parents is to parent these beautiful human souls that God has given us. That's it. That's our whole job. They're our whole job. None of the rest of it matters. All the rest of it's going to sort itself out. And while we do have to participate in some of that noise, like I actually do have to pay my bills and I do actually have a stack of EOBs that I need to go through, or like, I don't even know what's going to happen. Right. So like we have to deal with the mundane.
Yeah.
But the important mundane. We have to find the joy somewhere in there, right? So sometimes like your house is so beautiful behind you and all this beautiful Christmas stuff, I'm guessing that's giving you joy. We have to find the spots where we're going to just like do the joy.
Thank you.
Right? Like we are allowed to have joy. And then we just have to know we're focusing on these people. And so doing the best by them that I possibly can. If I feel like I've done that, like, and that's not means I picked the best thing. And I knocked it out of the park. It means in that moment, did I show up the best I could? Sometimes, honest to goodness, the other morning, I opened one eye. I was sleeping on this couch and my daughter came down and I opened one eyeball and I said, have a good day. I felt like a rock star. I woke myself up.
Love that so much because you know how hard it is so hard to open that one eyeball when they do it weird times in the middle of the night.
Absolutely. That is love in action.
That surely
right
is. That, oh my goodness, that's so
surely
much
is,
love.
right? That was it. And that was love. And she felt love. And so when you realize that those are the moments that you're showing up in, it becomes a lot easier to give yourself grace because you are focusing on the ways you want to be noticing how your kid is good, the things they are doing well, you want to speak into them a beautiful identity of love and goodness and wholeness and recognizing their gifts. You got to do that same thing for yourself or you're not going to be able to do it for them. And so for me, that actually, to be completely transparent, required some therapy because I was not used to doing those things for myself. And I really had a lot to untangle to realize the ways I was not being kind to my own self, the ways I was beating myself up in my head, the ways I was saying, but I need to do this for my kid and this for my kid. And I needed someone to push back and say, where are you doing that for yourself? I needed someone to be able to tell me, as my beautiful therapist said, you actually deserve to come home from work and rest for a half hour and not start dinner, Amy. You know that? Like that's your actual assignment. And so when you start doing assignments like that, you realize, oh, this feels really good. Oh, I deserve this. I deserve rest. I deserve nourishment. I deserve, all these other things I'm giving to my kids. You do.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to give those gifts to yourself. And then they flow so much more freely because you're also like kind of like a rested, fed human.
Oh, that's amazing.
Maybe take a walk or maybe talk to a friend. Right. So it was some work to get to that point for me. Maybe there are people where that just flows really easily for, but for me, it just really didn't. And so in doing that work, I've become a lot more regulated, just a lot more able to do those things that I need to do as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, across the board.
Well, and then you being more rested, I would have to imagine, and you doing those things for yourself then puts you probably in like a less maybe reactive space or worn down space,
1,000%.
or
A
um
1,000%.
just it's good for everybody.
It is good for everybody. And I felt like I almost needed to hear, like, at first I did it because it was good for everybody.
Yeah, but now you do it because it's good for you.
You have to be able to do it because it's good for you. I mean, we hear self-care, blah, blah, blah. That's not it. It's not, I mean, that is self-care. It's not getting a manicure. That's 1,000 times more work for me to do that. I'm making an appointment, go sit in a chair. No, it's just not gonna, it's not my thing. Maybe it is somebody's thing. Great. Whatever, again, whatever is floating your boat and filling you up and giving you joy. That is it. But it's connecting with the things in you that, that need to be nourished
Yeah.
and need to be fed and deserve to be nourished and deserve to be fed. And we have to actually believe that at our core. You are a child of God just as much as your child is a child of God.
Mhm.
What does your parent want for you? Exactly what you want for your kids. It's that loop. Again, it's
Yeah.
another loop that we can think about. And it was so hard. I know I would have listened to me say these words 4 or 5 years ago and thought, that sounds a little selfish. It was hard for me to get over that. I don't believe that now, but I understand that thinking.
Yeah.
That's where I really started out. I felt like I had to pour it all out for them. I had to pour it all out for them every day,
Well,
every minute.
and for you to say that, I think that's good for whoever's listening that does maybe have that feeling of it's
Yeah.
selfish. That there's grace for that too. Like if that's where you
There's
are, there's grace for that
yes,
too, because the message that we are
yes,
bombarded with over and over and over again is
absolutely.
you don't take care of yourself. You take care of all of your
No.
people. You do everything for everyone
Yes,
else with,
yes,
just sacrificing. And
absolutely.
so I think that there is so much goodness in all of what you just said. I mean,
Mhm.
really, absolutely. And you're modeling that for your kids too. You're showing
Oh,
them that you,
yeah.
because like you said, it's so funny to even think that somehow we've received the messaging too that do all of these things for everybody else, take care of everybody else in your home, but you don't deserve that same.
No,
Like,
no.
it's such a
Right?
weird message, really, if you think about it.
It's such I mean, and there's so many reasons that serves so many other people outside of us, right? That we are equal. I actually have that on a poster right here, like, "You are equal to everybody else." I have to write it on a
Oh,
Post-it
I
right here.
love
Like,
that.
you are a human too, right? And you deserve human and I do remember, like, waking up to this at one point where I'm, like, running around doing all these things for all these people, and my family's, like, eating and hanging out, and I am just flustered, and I thought, "Why would my daughters ever want to do this?" And I remember I was really frustrated, and I was, like, getting ready to, like, yell at people, and that was one of the things that came out of my mouth. I thought, "You guys, this is not sustainable. Like, look at you and look at me. Why would any of you wanna be a mom?" I am not selling the beauty of this role right now to anybody because all it is like, if I'm gonna become a mom, I'm gonna become super grumpy and sweaty in the kitchen and then yell at people and never sit down to eat. Like, what about that is appealing to our nation's children? Nothing,
That
right?
reminds
So
me, I don't know if you like the movie The Christmas Story, but you know how the mom is just constantly slopping the food, and then Ralphie makes the comment about how his mom hasn't had a warm meal for
yes,
yeah, it's like, okay, that is the image, like, mom
it
slopping the
is the
food
image.
over and over
Yeah,
and over again and never sitting down to eat. No, that's not appealing.
yeah. It's not appealing. Like, we need to show them the beauty of the motherhood, like, the
Yeah,
joy,
yes.
right? Like, this is a gift that we get to do, and we need to treat it as such,
Amen
while
to
treating
that.
ourselves in a
A
great way.
Amen to that, Amy.
Yes,
Amen to that.
yes. Amen.
So this is the last question that I have for you. I just want to go in a little deeper with the isolation because you and I both mentioned how isolating this
Yes.
time can be. So what do you want to say to the person who feels alone, and what resources would you offer them? Because, like you said, we're not taking pictures of the diapers anymore. So what do we do with all of
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I do believe that even though we can't always tell every bit of our teenagers' stories, and there are some things that, like, I would never say to another person that have been trusted to me. So that's one level, right?
Mhm.
You are still allowed to share your feelings about what you are going through.
Oh, that's good.
When there's an incident, I love how you said that. That's all you got to say. And anybody who has a teenager is going to understand exactly what you mean. They don't even need the details, right? So, right, we there's like a solidarity among us that's quiet and strong. And so we need to lean into that with each other to find those people, even if it's just one or two that you can agree, like you can hold this hard right now and can know if nothing else, there's something really hard going on with my kid. And I just need to tell you guys, like, this is how I'm feeling about it. Like, I'm feeling surprised. I'm feeling shattered. I'm feeling shocked. I'm feeling broken. I don't know how to go on. I don't know what to say to them next. I'm so worried they're not going to be okay. We need a person or two to be able, it doesn't have to be the giant group
Yeah.
of people maybe we had at any point in time. It just needs to be a couple of people that can hold that space for us and for our feelings. You are allowed to have feelings about motherhood that are not positive as well. You don't always have to feel great. Doesn't mean you don't love your kids. It even if sometimes you're like, this is a really questionable human and I'm not sure where they came from. We can agree we know we still love them, and then be able to have that little bit. I do think also your prayer life, your prayer journal is an excellent example. Like, this is an opportunity in our lives to really strengthen that relationship, because we're often knocked to our knees in a way that affords a wonderful opportunity for open-hearted prayer. Like, that's that if you want to find the good in the mess, there is that. Resources like books, online communities. I'm holding it upside down. These kinds of things. A lot of people are really starting to form online communities around these
Oh,
topics.
that's great.
And even I know that our mutual friend Whitney Fleming has a book on teens out right now, and she's got a book club going. I just had a book club going. I know there's several other sites that have these like little groups behind where you can even post anonymously and you will get 100 comments on your problem that are kind. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, we're here for even an online meeting. We did an online meeting in my book club. That one online meeting, people were like just so excited to talk to somebody, so it doesn't even have to be an in-person person.
Yeah.
If your spouse is a great sounding board, if you are parenting with a partner, that is amazing. Someone from your church, somewhere. Get a teenager, get a therapist. That is like what I think we should put on a t-shirt. Because honestly, if you are really in the weeds, take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself before you're going to be able to meet them in any kind of great way. So get yourself righted the best that you can in whatever way you can. And it's not selfish to take care of yourself or take care of any of your needs, because that is going to serve your teenager, and it's going to draw you back out into that community.
Yeah.
If you're feeling isolated.
I love that. Those are so many great examples. And I thought about too how you mentioned like it's okay to have negative feelings. Because I think of how many times I have conversations with people and we'll even start the sentence with, well, I love my children. And it's like, of course we love our children. But it's like we feel like we have to say that before we say the next thing. And it's like
Yes.
we can just say the thing. Like everybody knows that we love our children. And because we have a negative emotion about something hard that's happening, like who wouldn't when you're going through the incidents of life, or like you're not
Right.
going to just be like, I don't know. Who is the lady that I used to watch in that 50s show? I don't know. Anyways, but like where you're just like, we have your apron on, you're just smiling and everything's
Oh
really like so
yeah.
happy.
Like a Donna Reed.
That was it. I was thinking, yeah, Donna Reed. That's who it is. Yeah, it's like we are allowed to have negative feelings. So I love you that you said that.
Yeah.
It's not loving your children and finding those people, being able to be anonymous. That's good to know too. Like if somebody really is feeling like I just can't say this, that you can find a club like yours and post something anonymmously. All you have to
Absolutely.
do is hit like that. You can't you just hit an anonymous button or something when
You
you're in
can. You just
groups
hit
or
anonymous. Yep, anonymous post. And like I've had a lot of people, use that as an option, and really no one can see who you are.
yeah.
So it really is a way for you to be able to get some feedback, and even just sometimes reading that other people are going through the same thing feels really good.
Yeah. How do people get Amy? Can anybody join your book club?
Yeah.
How do
Just
they
come on, if you
find
find
that?
me on my page, and actually, like, I just lulled it a little bit because we finished the book, like, we kinda did 1 round, and I'm gonna start up a second round because there was ask for a second book club meeting.
That's great.
So, Yeah, so that would be, anytime would be a good time to join because we'll probably just kind of keep it flowing. Because my idea was to have just that little background community where it's like not on the main page, but it's private. So it's like it's not something if you post it, like your grandma's going to see that you posted this question on this page. It's like something that only people in the group can see. So
Gosh, what a gift. That is a gift to people that you've created that space.
yeah,
And for
yeah,
anybody listening, if you are just kind of in these trenches or you have teens and any of this has resonated with you, I just really encourage you to check out Amy's book because it really is full of so many nuggets of wisdom. You'll make it and they will too. And Amy, is there anything before we close out? Anything else you want to say to people listening? Or
it's just been a delight. Thank you so much for having me. Seriously, I think I could talk to you for like 100 years.
oh, we could. And how can people find you, my friend? How can people find you?
Oh, you can find me. My website is just my name, Amy Betters-Midtvedt, which is like the hardest thing to spell, but if you get to the Betters, you'll probably find it. .com. And then that links to all my socials, Facebook, Instagram. Threads. Have you been on Threads? It's like a really nice place. It's a really
No.
friendly place.
Is it? I
Just come on.
Okay,
People are nice
I've
people.
wondered every once in a while now when I'm on social, like something will pop up from Threads and be like, "This is on Threads.
Yes.
If you want to check it out." I'm like, "What? Should I do that?"
Right?
You
It
recommend
is a
it?
really nice community, and the algorithm works really well there. So you can just like put in like parenting teens as your thing, and all of a sudden it'll feed you up a lot of parenting teen stuff. You don't even have to search. It's like a really cool spot. So check that out. I've been over there a little bit, like not and posting a bit, but it's a wonderful, welcoming community if you're looking for that in the interwebs.
Okay, I will
Every
definitely.
once in a while, my kids are having me put up a TikTok video, which is just like,
Now I have to get on there. I need to see your TikTok videos, Amy. What you do TikTok?
so they're like they're exactly what you'd expect from a 50-year-old mom. I'm gonna lean in. I'm like, guys, this is what I have to offer. They're like, go for it, mom. I love them. They're so supportive and kind. My kids are they're just here
So
for all of
fun.
it. I know, so fun.
That's so fun.
So if you want to laugh, you can find me there too.
I'm absolutely going to do that. And this is like, I keep saying, so this is what happens. This is why we could talk forever and ever. I keep saying,
I
like,
know.
we're going to wrap it up. But I just
Yeah.
have to say, for any of you that are listening, but you aren't watching on YouTube or whatever, Amy has the most beautiful background ever because not only does she have her books in color coded order, which I absolutely love so much. Sister, you can't see my shelf, but my shelf is the same. But there is also a framed photo of George Michael. And as I've been talking to you, I've also been looking at that. I love George Michael so much. And it's just like extra joy. Like you bring me so much
You know, we had
joy.
this in common. I don't think we knew we had this in common. Did we?
Careless Whisper, my friend. My daughter sang it in the talent show 2 years ago, and it could have been my most proud parenting moment.
I can't even believe you got to have your daughter sing that in a talent show. That is such goals. I can't even with the George Michael love.
Oh,
Obsessed.
so. I mean, every time my girlfriends and we play music, like when we're hanging out, he is always like the top of the playlist. He's just so good. So, anyways, we completely digress. We really do need to say goodbye. But also, if you're a George Michael fan, I'm telling you, it's another reason to love Amy.
Oh my gosh, come join us. That's like the biggest reason to bond in the whole wide world. I mean, even better than cats.
Oh, goodness. Well, I love you, friend. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your beautiful smile, your encouraging words. It is always a joy. And until we talk again. Thank you for tuning in to the 5th episode of the Return to Jesus podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed talking with my friend Amy. Be sure to tune in next week for my conversation with my friend Bob Stanton, who helped me to figure out how to start this podcast, what equipment to use, and all the things. He is inspiring. He is a business owner. He's an entrepreneur, and I know you are going to love our conversation. Also, if you've enjoyed listening to the Return to Jesus podcast, be sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing and liking. And if you'd like to follow along on social, you can find me on Facebook at Jen Thompson Author, Truly Yours Jen, and on Instagram at Truly Yours Jen as well. I also have a website, jenthompsonauthor.com, where you can learn about all of the things that I'm up to. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your support. It means a ton to me, and I cannot wait until next week. Thanks, friends. Have a good week.